What up, WeHo? This month, the city of West Hollywood celebrated Women's History Month.
Hey, ladies!
We're sending our love to all the lovely ladies, whether they're WeHo women, worldly women, funny women, fierce women, or the fiercest of fierce women. Welcome to WeHoTV News. Happy March, West Hollywood! I'm Mike Siriaco, and I'm bringing you everything you need to know about WeHo, courtesy of the city of West Hollywood. A lot has happened since we last saw you way back in February, so we're going to bring you up to speed with the WeHo Wind-Up. Let's put 30 seconds on the clock. On March 7th, West Hollywood expressed itself on Election Day. Bonnie and Clyde almost robbed Moonlight of its Best Picture award at this year's Oscars. WeHo Pedals Hub Days proved bikes aren't just for, and Kellyanne Conway made us rethink our home appliances.
There are many ways to surveil each other through their phones, through their television sets, and microwaves that turn into cameras, etc.
Great. Now I'm gonna feel self-conscious every time I heat up a Hot Pocket naked, which is often. Well, I better go unplug the old science oven, but first let's get you all nice and toasty with these news briefs. On March 7th, Los Angeles County got out and voted. Kinda.
According to the Los Angeles Times, voter turnout for LA County hit 20%.
This is contrasted by the city of West Hollywood, which boasted a turnout of 26.85%. Hey, LA County, WeHo has some advice for you.
Suck less.
Thank you, ladies. WeHoans who didn't opt to vote by mail-in ballot, like myself, had the opportunity to go to the polls at their local community center and interact with their neighbors. Plus, I finally got to see what all those torsos on Grindr look like from the neck up. And speaking of hookup apps, on March 21st, Celebration Theater presented a staged reading of 0 Feet Away at the City of West Hollywood City Council chambers. This new play by Brian Otaño explores the themes of fidelity, maturity, and the masochism of online dating. I give it the highest rating any millennial can give. 5 swipes right. And on March 15th, the city of West Hollywood and its Russian advisory board hosted Time Presses, a Wednesday night social club at the Plummer Park Community Center. This evening featured karaoke, film screenings, and a potluck dinner. It also provided an opportunity to communicate in both English and Russian, kinda like the White House. In honor of Women's History Month, the City of West Hollywood's Women's Advisory Board and the City of West Hollywood's Chamber of Commerce presented the 22nd Annual Women in Leadership Awards on March 22nd. This year's winners included filmmaker J.D. DeSalvatore, Executive Director of Peace Over Violence, Patty Giggins, Executive Director of Pause LA, Pamela Maggette, Morgan Stanley Financial Advisor, Maria Stablaya, and Snadero USA's VP of PR and Advertising, Anna Paula. Not honored this year? Hillary Clinton. But at this point, she's used to losing. Sorry, boo. Guess it's just not your year. And finally, the city of West Hollywood has begun construction at West Hollywood Park on the forthcoming Aquatic and Recreation Center. The complex will include a multi-sport court that will accommodate basketball, volleyball, and dodgeball, as well as 2 rooftop swimming pools. So now WeHoans will have a place to wear their wet Speedos that isn't a go-go box at the Abbey. Alright boys, let's cover up these news briefs. In light of March being Women's History Month, we have a very special guest, a particularly famous and fabulous woman of other that you may know from stage, screen, and her work as a feminist. Please welcome to WeHoTV News, Ms. Piggy!
Thank you for having me on your show today, Michael, and may I just say, you look very handsome in that muscly shirt!
Thank you. I'll let you know now you're oinking up the wrong tree. But anyway, do you spend much time here in WeHo?
I do! In fact, I recently had a wonderful time covering the International Women's Day celebration. It was on March 5th.
Oh, right, at Plummer Park's Fiesta Hall. I heard they had singing and dancing and shared all sorts of cultural traditions.
Oui, Michael, and as an expert on vocalization, choreography, and the ancient art of karate, I was quite impressed, yes. Of course, you would think with all of my experience and talent, maybe it wouldn't have killed them to include me in the performance.
Pardon?
Oh, nothing. I was just saying, this Women's Day celebration, it was just as inspiring as the 3rd annual West Hollywood Women's Leadership Conference mini film festival on March 11th. Did you see that too?
Yeah, they screened shorts from local women directors and held Q&A sessions. How were the films?
Oh, they were so-so. I mean, not as good as my work on movies and television.
Come again?
Oh, nothing. I'm also looking forward to meeting Lisa Ling on March 30th. Yes, that.
Of course! She's screening an episode of her CNN series, as well as guest speaking on a very important panel discussion. That's amazing.
What amazes me is that This Is the Life with Lisa Ling already got 3 seasons. Meanwhile, I played with Mrs. Piggy barely lasted a year. It makes me so angry.
Well, we gotta move on to the next segment. Thank you again for coming on the show.
All right, thank you. I'll see you next month.
Don't hold your breath, pig.
Excusez-moi.
Nothing! Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Piggy! Since March is Women's History Month, we like to give a shout out to some amazing women who have shaped the world into a better place, both here in West Hollywood and around the world. Let's start by jumping back a century and shining a spotlight on Inez Milholland. This leader of the American women's suffrage movement was honored earlier this month in West Hollywood when her image was commemorated on a new street lamp banner. Ms. Milholland dedicated her life fighting to ensure that every American could participate in the democratic process, no matter their gender. She crusaded until her final breath. Like, literally. She died right here in Los Angeles in 1916 in the middle of giving a speech. Her final words were, "Mr. President, how long must women wait for liberty?" American women wouldn't win the right to vote until 4 years later. Ironically, Inez would never get to cast a ballot herself. So remember that, you overwhelming majority of registered voters in LA County who didn't vote. The women of Los Angeles may have equal voting rights, but the fight is far from over, evidenced by the career of Bambi Salcedo. This president of the Trans-Latina Coalition was honored earlier this month at the 2nd annual Herstory Awards. As a trans woman who was incarcerated in a men's immigration detention facility, Salcedo has given a voice to the often abused Trans-Latina immigrant community.
When it was time to shower, they sent me to shower with other men. Obviously that was embarrassing and degrading.
In light of the current administration's combative stance towards both immigrants and the LGBT community, Bambi's mission is more important than ever before, as is the work of Dianne Feinstein. The California senator boasts a lifelong progressive record. She supported medical marijuana, served as San Francisco's first female mayor, and was the first woman to preside over a U.S. presidential inauguration. But it's her role on the Senate Judiciary Committee that may be most crucial when it comes to taking down Trump.
How are we going to get him out? That's what I want to know.
Well, we have a lot of people looking at this, technical people. I think he's going to get himself out.
And Feinstein isn't the only feisty female aiming to topple the tangerine-toned troglodyte. Let's give a shout out to Samantha Bee. When the tenured Daily Show correspondent was passed over for the show's hosting seat in favor of a younger, cuter, dimplier option, she took her talent to TBS, where she's been reigning as late night's queen of keeping it real ever since.
Ever since voters invited a bunch of state-smashing, wall-building, America First Breitbart aficionados to slither out of their swamp and run the country for a while, we've been introduced to so much of their subculture's fascinating slang, one angry, insomniac rage tweet at a time.
And while Samantha Bee wields her satirical sword against Trump and his Legion of Doom, another intelligent woman bears the responsibility of leading the free world. Nope. Hell no. Seriously, I doubt she can spell free education, let alone run the free world. That's right, Angela Merkel. Now that Obama is busy kite-surfing with Richard Branson during his well-earned retirement, it's up to the German chancellor to defend democracy and liberalism across the globe, which is no easy task, seeing she has to deal with escalating xenophobia spreading across a splintering European Union, as well as this 70-year-old man baby.
Thank you. Handshake. Okay. Head up. Thank you, fellas.
So women, You rock! Not only in March, but every month, every week, and every day. We here at WeHoTV salute you. Continuing our coverage of our community's wonderful women, we go now to Eddie Robinson. Eddie, take it away.
I'm Eddie Robinson, this is WeHoTV News, and it's Cho in WeHo.
It's not about looking good.
No.
To me, it's about looking severe. Like, I do like this severe contour that people are like, what? Like, I was doing this contour, like my nose, like it was so crazy. It just looked like these two bars here. And it was like, why did you do that? I'm like, I don't know.
As a part of our lesbian speaker series, the city of West Hollywood recently hosted groundbreaking performer and activist Margaret Cho in conversation with Beth Lapides. Held at the West Hollywood Library, this sold-out event touched on a number of topics, including Cho's many accomplishments and her activism.
I think that this election really was a example and a lesson in misogyny, you know, and how misogyny really is something that we don't really even address in a way that's head-on.
Beth Lapides, also known as the High Priestess of Alternative Comedy, explained why this night is so important.
Peace, love, better sense of life, uplift, laughter, you know, a sense of what's really going on in the world, what the now is, and connection with community, maybe to know Margaret a little more deeply and have a sense that the conversation that we're all having together.
We also had an opportunity to speak with Margaret about her thoughts on the night.
I think it's great. It's just a fun thing to do, to talk, to connect with people, and to, you know, share ideas, and I think it's great.
Margaret spoke about her beginnings in stand-up.
I just love the art form, and I knew that there was a place for me in it, even though I couldn't see it right then. And I actually became successful very young, so it didn't really hold me back at all. Because I had this different voice, there was this ability to just go for it.
And that's exactly what she advised those that wish to emulate her success.
Just go for it. You got to go for it. You got to do you and do you as best as you can. And I think that's what it's all about.
For more information on the Lesbian Speaker Series, visit www.weho.org. I'm Eddie Robinson, WeHoTV News.
And now, a gay geek's guide to Donald Trump.
It's been about 2 months since Donald Trump,
a fat cat who won the presidency on a platform of xenophobia, has been inaugurated into office. In that time, he's corrupted the White House with nepotism and waged war against common decency. Who could have seen that coming? Oh wait, comic books did. That's right, the medium that invented the white supremacist face punch foretold all these horrors years ago. Like the idea that a follically challenged, psychopathic zillionaire could win an election by scapegoating illegal aliens? Sorry, Trump, but DC Comics beat you to that way back in the year 2000 with President Lex. After years of failing to foil Superman with killer robots and zany schemes, Lex Luthor realized the best way to one-up Big Blue was to successfully snatch America's highest office. This put Supes in a Kryptonian catch-22. If he intervened, he'd also be interfering in the peaceful transition of power. How important could that be?
The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy.
Damn it! You're right, you magnificent presidential bastard. Needless to say, the idea of a President Lex did get under Superman's skin of steel.
I spent $75 million on a fake presidential campaign, all just to tick Superman off.
In this case, Trump outdid Lex. See, Luthor only pissed off one alien. Trump pissed off 90,000. Eventually, Luthor was unseated after a very public psychotic meltdown. Although I don't think that's going to work in the case of Trump.
Quiet, quiet, quiet. See, he lied about he was going to get up and ask a very straight, simple question. So, you know, welcome to the world of the media.
Seriously, GOP, you're cool with that? DC's rival, Marvel Comics, also foreshadowed the terrors of a Trump administration in their 2009 company-wide storyline, Dark Reign. Spider-Man arch-nemesis, Norman Osborn, the one-time Green Goblin, and yet another cajillionaire with jacked-up hair, conned his way into the highest tier of government power and immediately replaced America's mightiest heroes with a cabal of supervillains, criminals, and sociopaths. Meanwhile, mutant minority group, the X-Men, relocated to the liberal utopia of California, specifically the sanctuary city of San Francisco, and began protesting against a rising wave of bigotry that was sweeping the country. In response, Osborne declared martial law and sicked the National Guard on them. You know, like how Trump threatened to unleash the feds on Chicago after Mayor Rahm Emanuel publicly criticized the cantaloupe-colored curmudgeon? Rather than submit to the sadist, the X-Men bamfed out of the US and relocated to its own island off the coast of California, predating the concept of Cal-Exit by 7 years. Sure, they were invaded by an army of white supremacists and killer robots, but they did get the satisfaction of giving the evil administration the middle claw. So what's going to happen in the next exciting issue of the Injustice League of America? Will Betsy DeVos gun down Ursa Major? Will Apache Chief intervene against the Dakota Access Pipeline? And will Steve Bannon finally unite all 6 gems into the Infinity Gauntlet? I guess I'll be seeing you in the funny pages, true believers. Geek. Love. Resist. From superheroes to local heroes, we go now to this month's interview. What up, WeHo? It's Mike Siriaco, and we're here at the West Hollywood Library. Hey, fun fact. Before we had Beyonce and Ariana, Los Angeles had Janis and Joni. That's right, in the 1960s, Laurel Canyon was a hippie haven where residents like Frank Zappa and the Mamas and the Papas would regularly perform right around the corner at the Sunset Strip. And photographer Henry Diltz was there, camera in hand, to capture all the music and culture and chaos. Let's go talk to Henry about our shared hippie history and see what mushroom tea he has to spill. Now let's start at the very beginning. How did you become a photographer?
Well, I was a folk singer in the early 60s, and on one of our many trips across the country doing college concerts and clubs, we went to a little secondhand store. We stopped in and one of the guys saw a table full of cameras and said, "Oh, a camera, I'll have one." And I thought, yeah, me too, why not? Without giving it a second thought. And we all bought these little funky cameras for $20. And we photographed each other during the rest of the tour for a couple of weeks. When we got home to LA, developed the film, it turned out to be slide film, transparencies. So I said, let's have a slideshow. And we invited all of our hippie friends, sat there in the dark, and the first picture hit the wall, and I just went, I can't believe it. There it was, glowing in color, 8 feet wide, and I could share it with all my friends. It was absolute magic to me.
It was the world's first Snapchat.
I think. One day up in Laurel Canyon, I heard music coming out of a house, and I went up to the front door, and there was Stephen Stills playing the guitar. And he said, "Hey, Henry, you want to come to the beach this afternoon? The Buffalo Springfield's going to do a sound check in this club." And I thought, yeah, I'd love to do that, because I wanted to shoot people on the beach. And I walked back to the club, and I was shooting this big mural, and I thought, this will go great in a big slideshow, this beautiful, colorful mural. And they walked out the back door, and I said, "Hey, you guys, would you just stand there for a minute in front of that mural so I can show the size of it?" And that was my first really official group shot.
Oh, so we're starting at the beginning here. This is ground zero.
66, the first year I picked up a camera. But the Renaissance is a word I've used, or a flowering of, there was a lot of creative energy. But something happened in the middle 60s where Bob Dylan started kind of writing his own songs, and then the Beatles started doing that, and that spread immediately. And that's what, that was the Renaissance. That was the flowering that happened. Here's one in Laurel Canyon.
Joni, I know, she's so pretty.
Joni was my neighbor. She lived on Lookout Mountain Avenue, and I lived a little bit further up the hill. And so one day we went to her house to do publicity photos. And before we even started taking the publicity photos, she was leaning out the window just saying, "Hello, hi, you guys, come on in." And we stood and talked for a few minutes, and I just started shooting away. And these pictures were better than the posed ones that we did later.
Isn't that always the way? It's a happy accident that way. Yes. So you were there for that. Of all those great performances, what's still rattling around, that's still resonating with you?
Well, I saw the Doors play at the Whiskey A Go-Go. I saw the Buffalo Springfield play there also, and many great groups at the Troubadour. And our own group played at a place called The Trip, which is right in the middle of Sunset Strip. And we opened for Donovan, we opened for the Four Tops, we opened for the Velvet Underground and Andy Warhol.
Love that.
Yeah. Here are the Doors in downtown LA. We had just finished shooting their album cover at the Morrison Hotel, which is down on Hope Street. in downtown LA. And then Jim said, let's go get a drink. And we saw this little place on the corner, and we said, wow, we've got to go there and have a drink. The funny thing is, a picture of this Hard Rock Cafe was on the back of the Morrison Hotel album cover. And when this album came out, they got a call from London, and a voice said, would you mind if we use that name? We're starting a cafe here in London, and we'd like to call it the Hard Rock Cafe. I said, sure, go ahead, you know. And that was the beginning.
This is the last time we saw a Hard Rock Cafe without a gift shop.
Exactly.
One of the biggest social eruptions that happened on Sunset Strip was the Sunset Strip riots of 1966. Why do you think that event was just so important for Los Angeles, especially during the whole countercultural movement?
Yeah. Well, what happened was all these kids were crowding the sidewalks. It was like a carnival midway at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I think the store owners complained, even though the stores were closed at night, but there was some pressure put on, you know, the local government, and pretty soon you had lines of police, you know, with helmets and jackboots and truncheons and
against teenagers.
Yeah, and you know, we weren't especially enamored of authority. We were the hippie peace and love generation. We didn't really like the government that much, you know. We were for freedom, and these police would park a school bus there right by the curb and stop everybody and look at their IDs and throw half of them on the bus and take them downtown. So I think the one night there was a big standoff by Pandora's Box, which is right at one end of the strip, right where Laurel Canyon hit Sunset Boulevard. And apparently, you know, they had created some kind of a curfew. And they were just arresting people, you know, just by the 10s and 20s and throwing them on the bus. And I think people started yelling and, you know, and it erupted.
They're mad at hell and they couldn't take it anymore.
It erupted, and luckily Stephen Stills was there, and he wrote that song For What It's Worth. Hey, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down, you know?
To what extent do you feel that the riots that happened on Sunset Strip influenced these other LGBT kind of riots or protests or demonstrations?
Or the Women's March just a couple of days ago. All of, you know, I mean, society, you know, if they don't like what's going on, they raise their voices en masse, right? And it's that same thing. Hey, everybody look what's going on. We don't really like this, you know?
We're going to have to. Well, thank you for sharing your voice and your photography with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Diltz. That's it for this month. Join us in April when I find myself in the backseat of a cop car. Again. You may know her as Captain Holly Perez, but you would be wrong, because she's now been promoted to Commander. Keep it cute, WeHo.